All right, the final show of the year. Now, I'm going to give my thoughts about what NXT has been since, well, for the last couple of years, what's going on now, and what I might think might happen going into the future of 2024. But let's go through the show. Opening, we had Chase U versus Mud. Here's the deal. All or nothing match. If Andre Chase and well, let me give it to you like this. Stemming off what happened last week. If Chase U wins, and that is when it came to Duke and Andre, if they won, the debt's paid. There's no more debt. Nothing. And they would probably still get a shot at trying to get the tag championships, even though it wasn't spoken about by the family. But I think that might be it. If they had won along with winning that money, I think they also might have got a shot at the tag champs again. But, and this is what I believe was, if Mud won, Andre goes square one again, still with $100,000 of debt. And Mud gets a title shot. And that's what the entire thing was all about. If Andre won, the debt's gone. If Andre lost, the debt stays, and Mud gets a title shot, which is going into New Year's Evil. Now, did I expect him to win? Honestly, I didn't want to think if he could win or not. I wanted to see how the match unfolded. Because we know that Mud is not that bad when it comes to Price and, what is it, Priest? No, Price and Nina. I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember the name. I don't see them often, so I don't remember. I mean, with scripts, I can remember scripts, but, But there's still unknowns. And I don't know if they really want to really push them that strongly, because they've only been on the roster for a couple of months. They've been in the Performance Center. They just started working on the main show of NXT from the Performance Center. I don't expect them to get very far. I do expect them to at least get somewhere to see if they can actually handle doing the promos, doing the matches, handling themselves in the ring when they're not having to do matches. If they can do a character, that's what they're watching. Triple H and Shawn are watching them. They're being watched to see if they can handle getting much more responsibility and more, getting somewhere. So you can get this. In the end, Chase U lost. They did not win. And now Mud gets a shot at the tag championships at New Year's Evil. I cannot tell you if this is good or bad for Chase U. I know many people don't like Chase U, but I did think it was something interesting. Because we still have, JC James is still dealing with that. You are still seeing Thea Hale. I don't know why I mispronounced Hale's last name. Hall. I don't know why I mispronounced her name. I think the main reason I'm mispronouncing it is because what's going on with Riley Osborne. I don't know where they're going to go with that either. And I'll get to that match in a few minutes. But Chase U in total, you wonder how far they're going to keep that faction keep going. Because at this point, it feels like it's almost run its course. And you're going to wonder what's going to happen with Andre, what's going to happen with Thea, what's going to happen with JC. Are they going to team up? Are you going to see a Duke Hudson finally go off on his own again? I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think of. Next, Heritage Cup. Briggs versus Nolan Dar. Now, I knew he wasn't going to win because I don't know who it is. Either it's maybe HBK himself likes Nolan Dar in metaphor. Maybe it's maybe Triple H is alright with the faction itself and eventually wanting to bring the Heritage Cup up to the main roster. That's a possibility. Eventually. I don't think it's going to stay on NXT forever. I do believe it will switch hands a couple of times, but eventually it will come to the main roster. That's what I do believe may eventually happen. But I didn't expect Briggs to win. But I did expect Briggs to have a good showing. And at one point, and I think it was during the second match, Briggs get his mouth busted open. He was bleeding either from his nose or his mouth. And he was basically dominating the first match. He dominated the second match. I believe it was the second or the third match when he finally, it was the parts of the second match before going to the third, when they went to commercial, that Briggs did get beat up a bit and then ended on the floor and then eventually gets nailed and then starts bleeding by the third match. But in the end, I didn't expect him to win. I knew there was going to be something they were going to do. But as I saw that you had to see Briggs lose his temper and basically DQ the match, because when you see Lash Legend, she uses the spit bucket, hits him in the back, and then it didn't work. Then they tried to throw it into the ring and let Dar be able to use it against Briggs. Still didn't work. And Briggs took it from him and nailed him, and then the entire match is over because once it's DQ'd, champion retains. So Briggs is done. He had a shot to get the Heritage Cup and he missed it. Now, here's where it gets interesting. For 2024, I don't know if this is the wisest thing to do for Briggs and Jensen. They were not a bad tag team at all. They've been tag teaming for over a year, nearing 2, I believe, at this point. And they had Fallon Henley. I'm not saying Fallon was the best thing of the group, because she wasn't. It was more about Briggs and Jensen, and Fallon was tacked on top of it. But, finally, in this situation, it's Jensen who says it. He says, Briggs, I know what's going on. You lost, but you did great. But it's obvious you want to become a singles competitor. Fallon, you have a chance to go up against Tiffany, and you want to do that match so you can put her in a place. So, what I said before, if anybody remembered, I did say that the deal that Tiffany Stratton did, saying if you lose to me at New Year's Evil, you got to work for me. It's the reverse. If she loses, she's going to work either at the bar. I think the bar will probably where Tiffany's going to work, not a farm. Maybe they'll show her on a farm once, but a bar is probably where she's going to work. She's going to work for Fallon for maybe a day or two, whatever amount they're going to say, if she won. But all three of them broke up. And now here's where it gets interesting when it comes to Jensen, because we don't know what they're going to do with him. He was standing there with his hand out like this after both of them left, and he just felt alone. So either he's going to be working with Kiana James again, maybe she might have him again, or he'll do something else where he might actually team up with somebody else. There's a possibility that Jensen may actually get teamed up with somebody. Never know. Okay, third match. Cora Jade versus Petrovic. I can't remember her first name. The one who reminds me of Kill Bill. The one who's wheeling around a samurai sword. A general katana, which has been blunted. Of course, there's no way she's going to have a sharpened katana. She will cut her ass. Even if she knows how to handle it, she's going to cut herself by accident. It is blunted. You know that. I have to say this because some people may actually think it's actually sharp. Unless they're going to do some type of stunt, it's not. I had to say it. I'm sorry, I had to. But did I believe Cora Jade was going to win? Of course I did. Do I believe that Petrovic has something? Yeah, but she's still too much of a martial artist. Like I've said when it came to Sorika, when it comes to Kiana Jordan, she's like this. Martial arts, wrestling. She needs to crank back a little bit. She's too much like this and not enough here. That's one of the problems they have with a lot of the NXT stars there right now. They're being trained for what they need to do on the main. See it like this. HBK is trying to enhance what they already have. But they still need to understand it's still pro wrestling. It is not just flipping around. It is not just being a regular athlete. That's what Vince wanted, and that's not the way it works. So some of these people have been trained the way Vince wanted, and now if Triple H is going to tell him, you need to make these people a little bit more pro wrestler, he's got to crank them back some more. She ain't ready yet, but you get my point. But knowing that she's going to have a match with, what is that woman's name? The one who's Miss NXT. I keep forgetting her name. Ana Grande, I believe her name is. I can't remember. I'm sorry. Grace. I think her name is Ariana Grande Grace. I believe that's her name. She's going to have a match because she went to Ava complaining about Roxanne Perez. Due to the fact of how, well, the only reason I brought this in is because Petrovic had dealt with Ariana Grace. And since Ariana Grace was mentioned, I had to also bring in Roxanne Perez because now next week they're going to have their match and she didn't want that. So, there you go. The first match of the two that are for the semifinal. And that was Alexis King versus, and I have to bring this up. Do I believe Riley... it's kind of hard to see where they're going to go with Thea Hale and Riley Osborne. Wait, not Osborne. Osborne, sorry. I always get Osborne and Osborne. I've seen Ruby. If you don't know that it's an animated series. It's got someone named Osborne. Then you think about Spider-Man and Osborne. I get them mixed up. The Oz. But Cena Osborne is dealing with Thea, but then Chase U is also thrown into the mix. It makes it very difficult to know how far they're going to go with him, dealing with Thea, and dealing with Chase U. Will Riley be the new MVP, and we're going to see Duke go away? They may go there because he's going to get, it's possible he may get the contract. He might. Because when you see this match, and it's mostly the reason he won was because of Bear Hill. Bear Hill, who is another Hawaii Native American, I believe. He's got the paint. He's got this. I'm just saying, do I believe it's going to be a good feud between Bear Hill? But honestly, I don't know how to feel about this. Because Bear Hill, he should not be dealing with Alexis King. He shouldn't be. Alexis King should be dealing with someone else other than someone under himself. Because even though Alexis King, and this is Brian Pillman Jr., he does know how to wrestle. He knows how to talk. He knows how to hold a promo. Yes. But we are still talking about someone who just got brought in. And it would be better if he's working with someone who's already been on the roster for a while of NXT and should be dealing with that. But we're going there. Next. I don't know why we got this match. Honestly, it was not a bad match. He was destroyed, and that's Nathan Frazier, to a Braun Breaker. And I do know, just in case someone says, dude, there's a good rumor that Braun Breaker may be allowed to go to All Japan Pro Wrestling. Yes, I do know about that. I do know. So you don't have to tell me. I do know. But this match doesn't really help Braun. It doesn't. Yes, it shows how strong he is. He basically, after mostly dominating, yes, Frazier did get one time when he was over him just a little bit. When he did that spear, Nathan Frazier just folded and splat. He could have easily got a concussion the way his head snapped onto the mat. There ain't no lie about that. But was it effective to help a Braun Breaker to go to All Japan Pro Wrestling if he's the one that's being picked to go to All Japan Pro Wrestling because WWE wants to do the Forbidden Door and wants to work with another promotion? To be honest, I'm surprised that they didn't pick New Japan because it's the biggest one there. But they decided to work with All Japan because maybe it's due to AEW's working with New Japan, and Impact, soon to be turned to TNA, is working with New Japan. Maybe it's possible they just didn't want to take that hassle where all three of these promotions will be working side by side and they don't want to intermingle. I mean, let's be honest. New Japan Pro Wrestling doesn't really do much when it comes to Impact and AEW together. Very rare. It's only happened At Forbidden Door, I believe. At the first Forbidden Door, not the second. But you get my point. So, this is the way it is. But I do believe this would have been better if Braun had been on the main. This is what I feel. If you're going to do something special with Braun, if he's the one chosen, he should have gone to SmackDown or to Raw. Had a match there with one of the wrestlers there just to make himself be present. So if he is chosen to go to All Japan Pro Wrestling, at least he's already been on nationwide TV. Instead of this small part of WWE, he would have been on the main show, which could have helped him. I'm just saying. Next, the next match in the breakout tournament, because we just had the first one with Lexis King and Osborne. It is now Heights, I can't remember his first name, and Oba Philly. I knew, because I've seen him before. Before he even was in this breakout tournament, they let him have one match on regular TV in NXT. And the moment I saw him, I said, there you go. There's a boy that's going to be going. There's a boy that they chose. That is somebody they want. And when you see this match against Heights, yes, Heights look good. But we are talking about someone that, unfortunately, and this is what not many people are going to understand. This is what I believe. You're talking about, I think his name is Travis. I could be wrong about his name. I don't remember his first name. But he is a amateur wrestler. Like what happened with Chad Gable, like what happened with Kurt Angle. He's another one, along with a Damon Kemp. Another one who has done incredible work in the Pan American Games, in the Olympics, in the World Games when it comes to amateur wrestling, not pro. He's done it. But that does not mean it translates every time into pro wrestling. Vince wanted him, along with Fani, who I believe is a shot putter. But as a shot putter, he has more potential because, as I've learned over the years, when you do like triathlons or someone who does a sport that requires more than just one type of mechanic, you're more versatile than most people. As a pro wrestler, you were taught, and even Kurt Angle has said it himself, you are to show no emotion in any setting when you're about to do your wrestling. You're to go stone face. You cannot show any emotion, no feeling, nothing. So a lot of times, amateur wrestlers have a little more problem trying to express themselves unless they will always express it. Like what happened when it comes to Bobby Lashley and when it comes to Brock Lesnar. These guys are amateur wrestlers to the core. And you could tell with Brock, he's very, very difficult to work with because when he first started, he wasn't very animated. Bobby has gotten a lot better at it because he's been working, and since he left WWE, unlike Brock who went to UFC and then back to WWE, you can say with Bobby Lashley, he went to NXT. He went to WWE, then he went to Impact, which gave him more time and more experience, and came back, which made him a better pro wrestler. It is not just about his physical appearance. He's learned how to be a pro wrestler. So you've seen a shot putter who can be molded in any way you want because he's very versatile compared to an amateur wrestler who's stuck in one mode. That's how it works. They have a lot of work to do. So, Fani won. I'm not surprised. This is the most bizarre match. Joe Coffey versus Joe Gacy. What was that? Look, when it came to Joe Gacy, they had nothing for him after they broke up Schism. Once the guys who were working in Dyad were gone, and they're gone, the only ones that was left was him and Ava. Now she's acting as an in-between between Shawn Michaels and the interviewers. She's basically the errand girl, doing all the stuff that a Shawn Michaels would do. Instead of coming out and talking, it is now her, which is fine. She's not great at it, but she's only been doing it for, a month or so? She can grow into it, but as it stands right now, it's going to take her time. But that's all she's doing now. And Joe Gacy, they didn't have anything for him. So they let him act a little nuts. Kind of almost like a friendly R-Truth, but not like a Hornswoggle. But now they put them up against each other, and Joe Gacy got his ass beat. No, not Joe Gacy. I think the reason I botched here and say it was Joe Gacy instead of Joe Coffey, I'm confused. Because what would you really get? Look at what happened during the match. You got people chanting, Joe's forever. Joe's forever. Let's go, Joe. And they were talking about either one of them. And I'm going like, you got Joe Gacy and Joe Coffey. The double Joes. You could make them a tag team, Joe and Joe. I don't know. It was like the way they were testing, it's like they tested what would happen if you put two guys with the same first name, put them in the same ring together and see what will happen. That's what it feels like. You got Joe Coffey and Joe Gacy, both have the same names, both have almost similar builds because Joe Gacy is a bit chubby, but Joe Coffey is very solid. He doesn't have any chunk to him, but he's muscled up, but he's thick. He's like a rock. And you stick them together and you think, these two, wouldn't it be crazy that you team them up together? Because they have similar styles. And Joe Coffey, what is he doing? He's just going around with his brother in the back. He's not really doing much. So are they going to make Joe Coffey lose his mind and Joe Gacy is going to be the one with him? And then he'll be his new disciple. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, let me give it to you like this. Did I like Davenport and Valkyria's face-to-face? Wasn't bad. Wasn't bad. Davenport was a lot more animated than Valkyria. I'm just going to tell you the truth. Do I hate Laya Valkyria? No, I don't hate her as a wrestler. And she doesn't do bad promos, but like I said, the character that she had in the beginning when she first started, trying to be a mythical creature, I just didn't feel it. Now they moved completely away from that mythical part, and now it's just Laya Valkyria with her name, which she's better. She's much better. She's just a wrestler. But does she have character? No. But at least she feels better than being a mythical creature. But if you're going to talk about who's got the better ability to talk, it's Davenport. Blair is much better. And it's not bad that she's beautiful as well. I mean, they're both good-looking women. But Blair Davenport is just a better talker. At this point in her career, she just is. Is Laya Valkyria bad and she can't ever? No, she could become better. It's just going to take time. Counting when she goes to the main roster and is she ever going to be given an opportunity to become more than what she is. So, we will see her. And the question is going to be, will Laya drop that title to Davenport? To be honest, I think she should, but I doubt it. That's just me. You guys tell me below. Now, here's where they had the awards for NXT. The best moment was Braun Breaker with The Undertaker. Now, I'm not denying that. That was a good moment. Seeing Undertaker take him on, and it was good to see him, but I'm going to tell you the truth. It hurt NXT. As I said then, and I still agree now, you're interjecting the main roster into NXT, and it hurts many of the wrestlers at the time. You want to increase your ratings at the expense of making sure your pro wrestlers that you're training don't get spotlighted. Now, did it help Braun Breaker to a certain extent? Honestly, no. It was a nice moment, but no, because Braun is ready to go to the main roster. He should go in 2024. He's ready. He has nothing else better to do. He's not going to go and get the title again. It doesn't make any sense for him. He's not going to go after the North American title. It makes no sense for him. He's finished with NXT, but they chose not to bring him up yet. So he's got nothing to do. And that moment was good, but he didn't gain anything from it because it didn't translate to the main roster yet. And now that it happened months ago, it lost any type of real rub because they'll talk about it and they'll show scenes of it, but it's not going to help him now because he really needs to go to the main roster right afterward. What do we get here? The best tag team were the Creeds, who are now on the main roster. The best woman was Do I believe Tiffany had busted her ass to get as far as she did? Yeah. Is Davenport a close second? Yes. You could have almost interchanged them. That's how I feel. Davenport was here, but Tiffany's here. Slightly behind. So for me personally, I can understand why they made Tiffany the spotlight, saying that she gained the awards for 2023. Will it translate into anything next year? I don't know. Now, the match of the year. Do I believe that Mello and Dragunov 2 was the best match of the year? Because that's what they said it was. Don't know. I don't know. I could say Axiom and Frazier's second match they had was the best. Because they were very good at it. But that was for high flying. The best all-around match, I truly believe, should be Dijak and Ilya Dragunov when they had their match. That's why I think that was the best match. That was a couple of months ago. I think that should have been the one instead of Mello and Dragunov. Next. Let's say this before we talk about Underground. Let me give it to you like this. When it came to Ilya and Trick, I felt that Ilya was not going to say no to the match. He was going to do it. And seeing the beginning of the show where it's Trick that was told by Mello, do not try to put this off, take it. And he's trying to say, dude, are you trying to say I can't get it done if he's 100%? He says, no, just take it. You're the hottest you ever been. Take it. So when they had the meeting after Underground, he made it very clear. I'm not going to hold back. I hope you can do this. But I understand if you're hurt. He signed it already, and then he says, I understand if you're hurt. But if you need time, I'm cool. I'll wait. I want a fair fight. And then Dragunov, with the neck brace, says, no one and nothing will stop. Well, he doesn't say the Tsar, but he takes it off. No one will stop me. The only person that can stop him is himself. That's what he's saying. So they're going to have the match, and they shook hands, and that's the end of the show there. But it was not the best and most important moment of the show. And I can't believe I'm saying this, NXT Underground was the best part of the show. Let's make this clear. I know people are going to say, what? Yes. Closing the show with this type of match was one of the best things you could do. You wanted to do something different from Raw, which was just basically highlights of the entire show. You see I'm botching. I checked out Raw. I thought there was going to be something that's going to happen. No, it was highlights from the entire year. After I saw AJ and Seth Rollins in the very beginning, I turned that bitch off. I didn't want to watch it because I'm going to watch something. I want to watch something. This is what they gave me. NXT gave me an underground match when Raw gave me just one thing. Just repeats. That's all it did. I don't even know what SmackDown's going to give me. If SmackDown gives me a repeat, like Raw did, I'm going to be watching Rampage. Yeah, I may watch Rampage. I probably will watch Rampage, and I'll probably do a video on it. Or maybe I may just check out NWA, and it may do that. Tell me below which one would you rather have. NWA or Rampage. One of them. I may just do one of them and then do the review on the other one the next day. But guys, when it came to Eddie Thorpe, when it came to Dijak, it was a good match. Was it a great match? No. I'm going to tell you right now, it was not a great match, but it was a good match. And that's what you needed. What did you have on Raw? Just repeats of everything you've seen throughout the entire year. Here, at least, it was not a fresh match for Eddie Thorpe in an underground match. No. And Dijak, he's been through stuff like this before. But it was a good match with a lot of spectacle, a lot of... let's make it clear. It was good for what it was. It wasn't great. But as I've said for years, this is not Triple H. This is not Vince. This is Shawn Michaels, and Shawn does 101 basic pro wrestling. That is what he does. Shawn Michaels only does general pro wrestling. Yes, he will give his twist on it. He will take a little bit of what Vince wanted, a little bit, counting if Vince at the time when he was in control, forced him to do stuff, and he tried to make it work. Or Triple H in this situation, because let's make it clear. Triple H is in control of creative for Raw, SmackDown, and I'm sure he's overseeing what NXT is going to produce at a certain point. But he still lets Shawn do what he does. But he's going to tell Shawn, I want that guy ready. Shawn, I want this guy. Shawn, I want to do this. He's going to tell him that, and Shawn's going to have to make it work and then compensate for it when that person, if they're brought up, is gone. And I'm telling you right now, Shawn's booking is not the most spectacular. It's not. Look, he worked during the golden age of pro wrestling. He worked in the Attitude Era of pro wrestling. He went away because of his back, came back, and had some of the greatest matches that many people would say would define a person's career. And then he came back again, and now he's helping, and at this point, running the developmental. He helped Triple H to run it, went and did NXT UK, then he was brought back to the United States, and now had to run 2.0 of NXT, and now 3.0 is with Triple H. Because that's what this is. We got the original NXT, Vince took it over and made it 2.0, whether Triple H had his heart problems and Vince had to just take over, or Vince took it over and then his heart became bad. And then when Vince went away, came back, and now lost his authority for creative, this is 3.0. This is where we get Triple H's, well, let me give it like this. Triple H is still telling Shawn what to do. But at least he probably is not giving him a heavy hand like Vince would. Vince would probably give Shawn a much more heavier hand. And it would say, yeah, boss. But now he's going to say to his friend, no problem. You want this? I'll do what I can do for it. Just tell me what you want. And that's what he's getting. And that's why the product has looked different. Is it spectacularly different? No. But the stories have been generally consistent. Unlike what's been going on in WWE with Raw and SmackDown, tell me, what have you seen on Raw and SmackDown that's been that great? The Bloodline storyline is done. There's no real bloodline. Jay should have been the tribal chief, but they didn't want to pull the trigger on him. They sent him to Raw. When it came to Roman, he kept the moniker and he kept the title. And then he's sporadically coming in and out. What do? We started sending people over to Raw from SmackDown and back to Raw and then to NXT. NXT started sending their titles up and then they got merged. Look at the North American title. It was on Dom's waist. Now it's on Dragon Lee's waist. It went from Raw, which was Dom's place, and now Dragon Lee on SmackDown. It's jumped from one brand to another. This is what we're getting on the main roster. It's very sloppy. As I've said in my comments to many people, and I'm going to keep saying it, long-term booking does not mean better booking. As much as JD, Just Alex, maybe Solomon are going to say that everything's going to get better, they're not seeing what I'm seeing. Now, mind you, I am not as great as them. I am just a very little YouTuber who's been doing this maybe as long as them, a little bit less, a little bit more. But I know how people think. I'll give you like this. When it came to Just Alex, if you've seen one of his videos, he talks about how the wrestling business has changed again. And the way he saw things when once AEW came in, the only thing he cared about, match. I want the best match. I want the most consistent match. I want matches. Fuck when it comes to general storylines. They can be a little less as long as you get matches. But now he's flipped the script because he realized he made a mistake. And there's nothing wrong with making a mistake when you're doing what we do. We don't always get it right. Look at me, I botch all the time because I'm trying to say the right things, and being anxiety with depression, sometimes I have a tendency to overthink it and I botch I freeze. But we make mistakes. The question is, are you willing to accept those mistakes? Just Alex said it very clearly. I did not see that the wrestling had gone too far beyond storytelling. Because look at AEW. We got more wrestling than story. Look at WWE. We got more wrestling than story. And he wants them, this is wrestling, this is story. He wants to bring it a little closer. That's the way he sees it. Does JD see it? Yes, he does. He doesn't say it as much, but I know he sees it. Even Jesse sees it. Why do you think Jesse, JD's partner and actual friend that he cares about, is reviewing Impact Wrestling, soon to turn to TNA? TNA, NWA, maybe, I know someone's going to say GCW, no. It is too hardcore. They may have storylines, but they're not probably consistent. They do more hardcore stuff. But you're probably going to say MLW, they do storylines. We know they do. NWA does storylines more than they do main wrestling. They're doing old school style 80s, early 90s wrestling. And then there's TNA, which we do not know what they're going to do once Hard to Kill. We don't know. When they start up, they're not going to change. I don't know if they're going to change the name on their first show next week. Will it be TNA? Or will they actually still be using Impact until the 13th when they'll start using the TNA brand? When it comes down to it, we don't know about TNA yet. Have they decided to not lose the ability to do stories? Because the true alternative well before AEW was TNA. Why do you think Will Ospreay said, saying I'm a TNA kid? Because he was. Not telling you that TNA is going to be the best for when it comes to stories. I'm only telling you that when it comes down to it, like the beginning of this video, what do we got here? We got Shawn Michaels booking. It was a good underground because he's doing one-on-one booking. He's doing basic booking, not trying to cater too much to creative when it comes to characters, and not going crazy when it comes to a whole bunch of spots and wrestling. He's trying to keep it mostly somewhere and wanders a little bit between the two. That's what he does. And I'm not saying it's great, but that's what we got. But this is just me. This is the last video of 2023 for NXT, not for the rest of the year. Next, I'm going to probably still make some videos. I'm still going to look at Dynamite. I'm still going to see if I can do Rampage, and maybe I'll do a couple of videos when New Year's Day comes out. I might do a video that I'm considering, or two. I don't know yet. Peace.